Hello, I'm Dean Alcari, a college student at Nova Southeastern University, passionate about making our community safer. Today, as a fellow student who's seen the impact of gun violence on campuses from the news and social media, I'm sharing why we need smarter gun policies right now. This isn't about taking away rights, it's about saving lives. Let's dive in. Picture this. You're in class scrolling through your phone during a break, and suddenly another post pops up about a school shooting. It's heartbreaking and all too common. This year alone, in 2025, there have been dozens of school shooting incidents across the US, resulting in 26 deaths and at least 100 injuries, according to data from the Gun Violence Archive and CNN. That's on top of the 3 school shootings we just saw in October. Gun violence remains one of the most pressing public health issues in America, claiming over 40,000 lives annually on average through homicides, suicides, and accidents, with more than 12,000 deaths already reported so far this year. Now, why is this happening? It boils down to the lack of strong gun regulations in many parts of the country. While we've seen a slight decrease recently, it only highlights the root causes and reduces the urgency for real change. That's why this video aims to reignite that urgency and offer solutions. My research question is, how can stricter gun laws like universal background checks, child access prevention policies, and bans on assault weapons reduce firearm-related injuries without an outright ban? Today, we'll explore data from sources that both agree and disagree, and I'll show you why stricter laws are the way forward. Let's start with the evidence. Stricter laws really do equal safer states. A key study from Jahan and others in 2018 analyzed over 1.2 million trauma cases from the 2011 nationwide inpatient sample and found about 2,500 related to gun violence. They discovered that states with lower gun violence deaths had higher Brady scores, which is a measure of how strict a state's gun policies are overall, looking at things like background checks and waiting periods. These states experienced 28% fewer firearm injuries for every 1,000 trauma patients and lower mortality rates. The authors concluded there's a strong association with decreased suicides and accidental shootings, and through large-scale statistical analysis controlling for urban and rural differences, they even showed causation. This aligns perfectly with my thesis. Stricter gun laws reduce violence without banning guns outright. Think about it. How many lives could we save if every state adopted these measures? Moving on, the RAND Corporation furthers this with a comprehensive review of 182 studies on 13 main gun policies, evaluating 8 separate outcomes. For example, child access prevention laws show supportive evidence for reducing suicides among youth by increasing security and mitigating access to guns, preventing a vulnerable teen from getting a hold of a firearm. Background checks have moderate support for decreasing crimes and suicides by screening out individuals who've committed crimes or have psychological disorders. Assault weapon bans, though not as widespread, are linked to reductions in mass shootings. Pro-gun laws like Stand Your Ground have been shown to increase homicide rates due to escalations rather than deterring criminals. RAND categorizes their evidence as supportive, moderate, limited, or inconclusive, and as a neutral research organization focused on public health while preserving the Second Amendment. Their work is trustworthy. Another scholarly source comes from the Johns Hopkins Center for Gun Violence Solutions, and it states that higher firearm ownership and permissive laws are associated with elevated rates of suicide, homicide, and unintentional deaths. They emphasize that access to a firearm in the home increases the odds of suicide by more than 3-fold. This supports safe storage practices, a law that reduces suicide rates by preventing access at vulnerable ages. Everytown research and policy state rankings show strict states like California and New York with low gun death rates compared to higher ones in Mississippi. The evidence is clear that stricter laws do work. On to counter-arguments. Opponents like National Rifle Association argue that laws don't stop criminals, pointing out that only about 10% of criminals get guns from retail sources. They highlight Chicago's 2020 homicide spike despite restrictions and claim that more guns means less crime, citing how firearms doubled from 1991 to 2019, while violence dropped in some periods. These are valid points to consider, but let's examine them closely. Here's why those arguments fall short. In 2024 to 2025, violent crime nationally is at historic lows, with the FBI reporting a 4.5% drop in violent crime so far this year compared to 2023. Chicago specifically has seen continued declines, with homicides dropping significantly in 2025. Rand Corporation's side-by-side comparisons prove stricter laws cause less violence, and unlike National Rifle Association, they don't cherry-pick data. Plus, the National Rifle Association is funded by gun companies, prioritizing sales over comprehensive safety, and they often ignore preventable accidents and suicides. Neutral sources like Rand Corporation integrates solutions for targeting criminals while adding smart regulations without a need for outright bans. On to the calls for action. As emergency physician Megan Rainey explains in her TED Talk, gun safety is like seatbelts or HIV prevention. There are proven strategies to cut deaths without banning cars or anyone else. And public support is strong. 58% of Americans favor stricter laws, according to Pew Research Center polls. This isn't about politics. It's about protecting our friends, families, and futures on campus and beyond. So what can you do? Vote for safer gun policies in your state elections. Share this video, talk to your representatives, and support groups like Everytown and Rand Corporation. Together, we can end this epidemic and make our schools truly safe.